Okay, we got a very good question from one of our subscribers and actually our Patreons. Okay, so I want to give you a big shout out, Jacob. And he brought up a very good point. He brought up like quite a profound question, and I'm kind of impressed here because I know Jacob. I spoke to him, and Jacob, you're a young kid. You're a young kid. I mean, I think you're still in high school. Last time we spoke, and you're asking these big questions. You know, that's very good. All I'm saying is keep asking now. Okay, keep asking them and keep going down that road. Okay, because you're going down some good rabbit holes. So, Saeed, in previous videos, you discussed about souls and that people that we have special connections with are in the same group, also known as soul family, which is correct. And how we are close in previous lifetimes. But in Buddhism, it is taught that there is no soul and that after Nirvana, there is no rebirth. Can you please explain? Wonderful, wonderful question. Wonderful question. Okay, so first of all, the thing with the souls that we have a special connection with, that we feel close to, and we sort of tend to incarnate in the same soul family, that's not very difficult to see. Because, you know, just look at your life right now. I mean, look at your parents. Don't you feel a special connection with your parents? Well, chances are it depends. Maybe not so much. I'll tell you, I've got siblings, certain siblings I feel closer to by nature than others. Because my soul have incarnated with that soul probably a lot more. We've been together a lot more than, say, my other siblings. Okay, I'm saying it is what it is. I'm sure the same thing for you. You know, there's just a certain connection you feel with particular souls. You don't know why, you don't know what it is. You've just incarnated with them a lot more. But you probably look, the funny thing is every person you've met, you've been a brother to or a sister to or a lover with at some point or another. Because we've just been incarnating so much. Okay, so much. Like, I'm talking millions of times. Not just as humans, mind you. Okay, not just as humans. So keep that in mind. But there's certain souls you might have spent a lot more time hanging around than other souls. I can think of a few friends. One of them, I'm looking at his name right now. Because you've sent me this message on Facebook, and another friend of mine. I've had him on the podcast before. His name is Akash. He's my soul brother, okay? He's my soul brother. You know, I just have a very, 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 very close and special connection with him. You know, that's not very difficult to see, okay? It's not very difficult. There are certain souls you just incarnated with more. But I mean, it's all just pick your luck, because it's one being, one consciousness experiencing itself in all these subjective manifestations. And it's a draw. Okay, so now me and Akash, for example, if consciousness is a big ocean, an endless ocean, say me and Akash, by the luck of the draw, ended up being two drops beside one another. Okay, and so that's why we feel such a strong affinity. We're the two drops beside one another in the ocean. Okay, but I've come in contact with virtually every other drop before, in one way or another. And it just so happens that Akash is one of those drops that I've seen over and over and over appear in close proximity to me. Okay, and the ocean is infinite, by the way. There's an infinite number of things, an infinite number of souls. It goes on for infinity. Everything is infinite. So, okay. That's not very difficult to see for anybody watching here. You have your own personal connections with these certain souls. And it goes beyond emotional. I mean, it goes beyond that. Okay, you might say, but my parents, it's my human thing. They grown up, they raised me. Well, a lot of people don't like their parents. They don't like their dad, but they like their mom. Or they like their mom, but they don't like their dad. It has to do with that. It really has to do with that soul connection. Okay? So, in Buddhism, it is taught that there is no soul and that after Nirvana, there is no rebirth. Can you please explain? Well, you've just hit a very profound disagreement between Hindus and Buddhists. Hindus say Anatman, no self. Hindus say, no, Atman, there is self. Buddhists say no self. Well, actually, it's funny. They're talking about the same thing. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, it's a minor philosophical difference. They're talking about the same thing. Because what Buddhists say when they say Anatman, when they say no self, they're saying you're the collection, the collective, the aggregate, the sum of a bunch of other things, a bunch of other factors. So there is no separate, distinctive thing that defines you. So for example, take me, there isn't anything that specifically defines me. You might think, well, you've got black hair and you've got this and you've got that. No. I simply inherited this DNA. Okay, I'm a collection. I'm the sum of my biology, of my past lives, of my energy, of my choices. I'm the sum of it. There is no thing that you can pinpoint at me here. That's the Anatman, that's the no self. It's not, Buddhism doesn't teach that there's no soul. You could look at it that way. If you want to market it to atheists and secularists, you could say, well, because that's the thing with Buddhism, mind you. Keep in mind, Buddhism is very flexible. It always found a way to go into the culture that it's in and adapt to it. This is why Tibetan Buddhism is like so different than Zen Buddhism. Because Zen Buddhism and Chinese Buddhism, they melded into the culture. So they took a lot of the Taoist foundations of Chinese culture. So Chinese Buddhism is different than Tibetan Buddhism, different than Theravada. It's different. They're different. They're not the same. They're quite different. Go to a Zen monastery, go to a Theravada, which is a classical Buddhism. Okay, you find it in Sri Lanka and Thailand. And then go to Tibet. It's entirely different. It's different. It's a lot of difference. The mantras they use is different. The way they go on about it is different. The way they practice is different. Because the Buddhism is very flexible and it goes in. So, it's very appealing to say that Buddhism teaches no soul. Very appealing to a Western secularist mind. That's the beauty about Buddhism. It'll take your culture and it'll meld itself into it. And perhaps Buddhism is the religion of the future. So now this is a disagreement amongst Buddhist and Hindu philosophers. This is a philosophical difference. Hindus say Atman, there is self, there is Brahman, there is Atman, there is true self. And they describe it Sat Chit Ananda, absolute knowledge, absolute existence, absolute bliss. And then Buddhists will say, well, no, there is no self, there is no soul. Nirvana means to extinguish, which is the same word in Sufis, fina, which means to be no more. So it's non-being. Nirvana means to extinguish. But what you're extinguishing is your identity, the illusion of separate self. But then you got people like Tibetans, for example, and they describe the nature of mind as pure white light. That doesn't sound like no self to me. That doesn't sound like no soul to me. So you see that that's the Tibetan take on it. And Tibetans are very influenced by Hindus. Okay, whereas you got different traditions in Buddhism, they took on different characteristics. Okay, Zen got a different characteristic altogether. Zen is a lot more about being present in the moment. And it's very practical in that way. Okay, it's heavily emphasized on meditation. There's not a lot of hocus pocus, not a lot of ideology. It's just meditation, practice, let's be here now. Very practical. Tibetans, very practical, but also very esoteric, and they've got the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it's a lot more, it's got a lot more of a religious atmosphere to it. There's a lot more praise and worship to deities and spirit protectors, etc. You don't see much of that in Zen. So it also depends on which branch of Buddhism. So, you know, for example, the Tibetans, which to me are masters at the death and what happens after dying. Zen people are masters at being here now in the moment. Tibetans are very good at that. Don't think I'm saying they're not. But they've really mastered the afterlife and what happens after. Okay, I mean, they get the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I mean, it's crazy how accurate their descriptions are. They meet all the accounts of people who had near-death experiences. It's like the people who have near-death experiences, they read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, they're like, that book just described exactly what I just had. Okay, so they're masters at that. They really have specialized in it. Just like you have an elite athlete, a Lionel Messi, specialist in football. You got these Tibetans, they're specialists in the afterlife, if you will. Okay, and so what do they describe the self as? They describe it as pure white light. This is the nature of mind. That doesn't sound like no soul to me or no self to me. Okay, if you truly understand the concept of Anatman, all they're saying is, look, your delusion of who you think you are, the idea of who you think you are, I am the separate thing, that doesn't exist. That's not real. That doesn't exist. It's not there. It's not there. And so what is left after that is what the Tibetans talk about, the pure white light, the nature of mind, the true nature of mind. They say this is the true nature of mind. Okay? I was watching a documentary on a Tibetan Lama yesterday who he had a problem with his foot. And it was, doctors said, if you don't amputate it, it's going to spread to the rest of your body and you're going to die. And then he went to the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama told him to do meditation. He told him to do specific meditations, and he healed himself after 3 years. You know, one of the meditations that he did is he would sort of visualize light coming through his head from Buddha, from the heavens of Buddha. There's a lot of, in Tibetan Buddhism specifically, there's a lot of, it's a religion. It's got a religious atmosphere to it. There's a lot of praying. There's a lot of praising. There's a lot of paying respects to their guru. And they have deities, many deities that they pray to. So to them, as far as I'm concerned, it's quite similar to the Hindu view of the soul. Okay, it's quite similar. And so they describe the white light as the true nature of mind. And so it has a subjective feeling to it, a soul feeling to it, if you will. Whereas maybe if you speak to a Zen master, they might be a lot more inclined to say, yeah, there is no soul. You know, they might, you know, it really depends also who you're asking, okay? But understand that the Anatman, the no self, that's the delusion of a separate self that exists. Once you extinguish that, you've reached Nirvana. That's Nirvana. To extinguish the illusion of separation. There it is. There it is. And so, now, back to the thing. You know, we talked about, this goes back to your question. We talked about how, okay, but there is, I mean, I'm an individual soul, right? And there's other individual souls that I feel a close affinity to, that I feel special connection with. What's up with that? Yeah, that's an illusion. That is an illusion. That is you playing within the illusion. Okay? You basically gotta play like you're in the illusion and you're out of the illusion. The illusion of separate soul, that's part of the illusion. That's what's keeping you from Nirvana. Because see, as long as you think you're an individual separate soul, you're gonna have to incarnate again and again to do your separate individual soul thing. But when you reach Nirvana, when you have fully extinguished the illusion of separation, you don't have to take any more birth. Your karma's finished because you're no longer under the illusion that you're a separate soul. So you don't have to play this game in samsara any longer. So yeah, that is part of the illusion. the individual soul is part of the illusion. That's what's keeping you still. That's what's keeping me still in the cycle of death and rebirth, samsara. And all these souls that you feel a special connection with, they're under the same spell. They're under the same illusion. Okay, that's why we're still in the illusion. Once that feeling of special connection disappears, you start to see yourself literally in everyone, because you are everyone, then you're getting closer to Nirvana. Nirvana is a scary place, okay? But it's a place we must all go to eventually. It's pretty scary. That's terrifying for your gross ego. This is the gross ego. When you say gross, we say this one here. I'm a human being. This is my body. This is my identity, my psychological identity. It's also scary to your soul ego, that individual soul as well, which is just a step behind this most superficial ego. There's the soul ego, like I'm an individual soul. Okay? Nirvana is very scary, because Nirvana is going beyond all of that. It's peeling off all the layers of the onion. Okay, Nirvana, but you know what's the thing with Nirvana is everybody's going there. Everybody's wired to go to Nirvana, because it's one consciousness, it's one being. It's one soul, if you will. It's one consciousness. It's the pure white light, the true nature of mind, as described in the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's scary, but everybody's wired for it. And once you get there, you realize that wow, like this is so much better anyway. I am one being, and it's so much better to be whole than to be separate. So yes, I answered this very paradoxically, because the whole thing is a paradox. It really is. The whole thing is a paradox. It is paradox. Okay? Yes, there is soul, and no, there isn't. That's the paradox. Yes, there is. No, there isn't. Yes, we have special connection with some souls. No, we don't. Because the truth is, you've incarnated with every single soul. And when you here's another interesting thing. I've been really deep into specifically the Tibetan branch of Buddhism lately. I've been watching lots of documentaries, and I'm gonna give the Tibetan Book of the Dead a third read sometime this week, because it's a short book, it's not very long. And I watched the documentary on a Lama Govind. And he's a very, 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 very high Tibetan Lama. Okay, very, very high. And they showed you his meditation. He goes to the mountain, some mountain in the Himalayas in northern India, and he just sits in a little hut, meditates for sometimes a year, 3 years one time. He just sat there and meditated. Very, very, very high being. And he speaks English, surprisingly good English. And one of the things he said, he's like, I just try to treat everybody as equal. I try to give everybody the same compassion. I try to give everybody the same love. Yes, sometimes you see special souls, but I still do my best to treat everyone the same. That's what he said. Because the more and more you get to these levels, and you get closer and closer past the illusion of separate I, separate human, separate soul, you can't help but start to see everyone in the same light. And then once you reach Nirvana, that's it, it's all one being. So that feeling of specialness, special connection to one certain soul, that's still, you know that you're still in the illusion. I mean, you are, I am. We're still in this physical plane interacting with one another. But the thing is, we're all wired for Nirvana. You can't help but go back to the wholeness. You can't help it. It's like, it's scary. It's scary to lose the individual identity. It really is. But you can't help it. You're programmed for it. You're one being. You're programmed to go back to the source, to yourself. Okay? So hopefully that sheds some light on the matter here. Okay? Thank you to Jacob for your question, for your support on Patreon, and all our beautiful, handsome, lovely, insert all the good things about a human being and about a soul. Okay, to all our Patreons for supporting this. I would love to do this full time. I know we will be able to. I know I will be able to, because there's a lot of generous people here. We've had several new Patreon family members join in late, lately, not late, lately. And I want to thank them, and I want to thank all the upcoming ones. I know there's a lot of you guys that have shown your desire to go on board, to pledge. So you could do this with as little as $2 a month. You put it in there, you forget about it. It's a cup of tea every month. And eventually I'll be able to do this full time. And if I could do this full time, you can only imagine. I mean, I would love to do this full time. So yes, with your support, that would be possible. I love you guys. Thank you for everything. And until next time, may the force be with you.